My name is Doug Smith, and I was stationed in Mongolia from 2004 to 2006. I was a teacher trainer there, and I was staying in Erdenet for 2 years, during which it was a marvelous experience working in the Education and Cultural Center. I developed different English programs throughout the whole city, and just had an incredible experience in Mongolia. One of the coldest countries in the world, yet one of the most rewarding.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Corey. I was in the Peace Corps in Mongolia from 2004 to 2006. I was stationed in a small village in western Mongolia called Yaro in Zalpan province. I think that Mongolia is known for its hospitality. Mongolia is a nomadic country, so the distances are vast, and there are nomads living in very remote areas. So if you come to a nomad's ger, or home, then you'll always be welcomed in. I was with some friends, and we were out in kind of the far countryside. We stayed with some nomads overnight, and then the jeep that we were in broke down. So we were trying to figure out how to get there, and our host suggested that to get the jeep going, if we could just push it down a hill, then we could probably get the engine started. So we all said, well, the only problem is the jeep is right now at the bottom of the hill. How can we get it up? Well, luckily they had camels. We hooked up the camels, had the camels haul the jeep up, and they said, Jonathan, your job is going to be to steer. Now, I knew that in the Peace Corps I'm not allowed to drive a car, but I figured if it's camel powered, probably that would be okay. There.
Okay, thank you. Owen Johns. I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Mongolia from 2005 to 2007. As I already mentioned, but it's like, you don't understand Mongolia unless you've lived through a winter, and what it's like. It's just, it definitely does really puts a damper on their psyche, and it did for me, of course, and for someone who has really never lived through a real winter at that point in my life. It was, at first it was a novelty when it started snowing in September, but February, I mean, I held it together until about February, and that's where I was like, I don't think I can do this. I want to leave. But I never did. I mean, I just, I went through a period where I, sat by the fire a lot and stared at the wall a lot, and, did not take pleasure out of reading the vast library of books that I had imported. I didn't, I was genuinely unhappy, and the only way I got through it was the help of both my Mongolian community, and then after that my American friends. But I didn't have any cell phone or anything until the second year I was there, and that was actually an interesting story. Okay, so I mean, there was always rumors that Mobicom, the Mongolian telecommunications company, was building a tower, and they built the tower on the highest hill. But before that time, I could hike about maybe an hour and get very little cell phone reception. So I would hike up there even in the winter, and I've made a habit of every Sunday making this hike and calling my parents and some friends once in a while. But then, the tower was being built near my house, on the hill near the river, and it took them forever to build that. And finally, I never remember, I was in the capital, and my sister called me and was like, we have cell phone, and it was like the happiest day of my life. It was like, I could text other people in other villages, and that, that really helped to kind of, you'll never guess what happened to me today, XYZ, and it's just that really helped. So yeah, it was not easy. There was personal suffering you know, on a mental level, I was never in any danger of like freezing to death. That they would never have allowed that to happen to me. But it did really teach me a lot about being uncomfortable and like living in uncomfortable situations. But at the same time, that was the only once, and that the next, the plants came back and life came back, and everything was fine. In the second winter, I had no problem at all. Like, it was a period of maybe, I would say, a month or two where I was just like contemplating leaving. And I think if anyone says that they never contemplated leaving, they're probably lying.
Hello, I'm Judy Gates. I served in Mongolia in the Peace Corps from 2008 to 2010, and then again as a returned Peace Corps volunteer from 2011 to 2012. Okay. And while I was there, both times I lived in Murin, which is in north-central Mongolia. Well, probably the most vivid ones are traveling in Mongolia, because there are so few paved roads. And I guess one of my more vivid ones is being invited to visit someone I'd been teaching English to in it's a place called Rinchendlum, north of me. And first of all, I thought we were leaving on the morning of one day, and we left 2 days later. And the second thing is, the car we were in, had, as often is the case, way too many people in it. And then the third thing probably is, I didn't realize it would take 15 hours to get there over unpaved roads, down kind of the side of mountains, over what is like, I guess, frost, whatever they call that, but it was like going over the waves of an ocean, and breaking down, of course, several times. Fortunately, fording a river, but having to pull somebody out going back to do that. So that's the kind of adventures you have, but they're wonderful.
Great. Okay, well, thank you very much.